Joining us now, the president of the National Association of Air Traffic Controllers, Nick Daniels, and CNN transportation analyst, Mary Schiavo. Mary, also the former Inspector General at the Department of Transportation. It is great to have both of you here with us. Nick, I want to start first with you. We have seen these two incredibly tragic accidents within 48 hours. Walk people through, there's a lot of attention on air traffic controllers now. Walk people through what role do they play in helping prevent incidents? Obviously the one in Philadelphia, very different, but especially with the one in DC. But what are air traffic controllers doing to prevent incidents like this? What is their job?
Well, thanks, Jessica, for having us, first of all. It's very sad it's under these conditions. The controllers around the country are devastated, the aviation community devastated to deal with this. But when aircraft go airborne, they're usually talking to an air traffic controller. We are responsible for every passenger on every plane and ensuring their separation. It depends the separation standards, depending on the type of airspace and airspace they're in and how congested that airport is. But one way or the other, we're giving them instructions at all times and using some form of separation with many of the aircraft, almost all the aircraft in the sky. There's
been a lot of discussion, too, about are there enough air traffic controllers? Do they have the resources that they need? Do they have the access to the training that they need? Did we lose a lot in COVID that were never brought back? There's just a lot of questions about are there essentially enough air traffic controllers, and can they do the job that they need to do? Where do you come down on that?
Well, I'm here to tell you there are not enough air traffic controllers, and we absolutely have to continue addressing it. We do thank Secretary Duffy. He did lift the hiring freeze on air traffic controllers now, but there's only 10,800 certified controllers in the entire country right now. We are supposed to be at 14,335.
That's a big difference.
It's a rigorous training process, so it's not like today we could go out and hire the 3,600. It takes 2 to 3 years to get a controller from being qualified initially just to enter the job, and there are then multiple points where they can fail out of being an air traffic controller, everything from academy to simulation training locally, and then eventually talking to aircraft on their own.
And so how do you think this gets solved in terms of getting you more air traffic controllers? I mean, obviously you noted that the hiring freeze has been lifted, which helps a lot probably, but what else can be done? Is it more funding?
It is absolutely staying on funding, appropriating. There is, bipartisan support. It was passed in FAA reauthorization, the maximum hiring of air traffic controllers for 5 years, but we need to keep the focus on it, make sure it is funded appropriately, and then that goes into the modernization. And we also want to work with President Trump on the recruitment of the best and brightest, as it stated. Then we have to talk about the stresses of this job. We're on 6-day work weeks currently to make up many of these losses of air traffic controllers that are out there. 60 hours in that work week, which introduces stress and fatigue. And we want to work on the pay, benefits, and the stresses that go along with this job, with this administration.
And Nick, talking more generally, Mary, I want to get to some specifics with you, too, about what we've been learning in the last hour about this D.C. crash, which is, I think, several things. But one thing we've kind of zeroed in on is this literally last second pitch on the part of the American Airlines flight, essentially them trying in that last second to pull up.
Well, that's right. And there really wouldn't have been a lot of opportunity for the aircraft to see and avoid the helicopter, and they couldn't do that anyway. They were under positive air traffic control. They were on a controlled descent. They must stay right on their glide slope. They must stay at their altitude, and they must line up with the runway. And and especially once they had turned into runway 33, they would be making a left-hand turn. The helicopter was coming in from the right. So it didn't surprise me that they did not see it till literally, the last second of the crash. But, a commercial passenger service jet just can't climb that fast. I mean, let's face it, a rocket couldn't climb that fast. A fighter jet couldn't. But they did see them at the very last second, and that was revealed today. But with their controlled approach and all of the data that they gave us, it sounded like the aircraft was exactly where it was supposed to be, on the right path to the runway, right altitudes, right descent rate. But there was nothing that they could do at the last second.
The other thing was this discrepancy, and it's all still, I think we have to put a big star next to this when we're talking about it, that it's still preliminary. The NTSB is still working this out. They've said they feel very confident from the black box, knowing that the American Airlines flight was at 325 feet, plus or minus 25 feet. Where it starts to get confusing is that what they were seeing in the air traffic controllers area was that the impact with the helicopter was at 200 feet, which people are confused as to then how did they hit each other, right?
Right. Well, and obviously we know that number, well, one of the numbers is wrong, but
right.
I think the NTSB made it clear, and there's a lot of equipment in a commercial passenger jet. You have a lot of different checks and redundancy in the equipment. So I heard them to say, and it would be my opinion too, that the American Airlines flight readout is correct because of so much redundancy. But the question will be now, and you know, the air traffic controllers and the policy for them are very important. You know, what is the equipment? Why was the discrepancy? What's the calibration? And, you know, in our country, we have a lot more equipment that we could deploy at airports all over the country because there's a big regional difference and there's a difference among our airports. Not all airports have all of the same wonderful modern equipment. And we have to decide as a country, what is our transportation policy? Are we going to have the best equipment and our best air traffic controllers? Because right now we don't. There's huge differences between the top 30 to 50 airports. By the way, the shortages are not the same all over the country either. Some airports have far more shortages than others. Right. They try to move them around, but there are government rules on that. And so I think our policy as a nation has to be to get the best equipment for the best air traffic controllers.
That's something everyone can agree on, yeah?
I couldn't say it better than that, but I absolutely agree. Bringing a funding structure in some type of funding reform to ensure that we have the necessary tools and equipment, especially the American workers serving the American people out there each and every day to bring the best service of air traffic control to in the entire world.
Make sure everyone stays safe. Well, thank you to both of you.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.